shoulders in a shared bed. It's about what happens when the people who notice you aren't the ones you expected. And yeah, sometimes it starts with a look. Sometimes a text. Sometimes it starts with a knock. But whatever way it begins, it always asks the same question. Are you sure you want to know what's on the other side? Because I didn't. Not really. But I found out anyway. Subscribe now because the deepest wounds hide behind closed doors. And the stories that echo loudest are the ones we swore we'd never tell. It started with borrowed sugar. But what I really needed was something that could sweeten my life. Daniel and I had been married for 9 years. Not unhappy. Just silent. The kind of silence that creeps in slowly, like a draft through a cracked window. You don't notice it at first. But one day, you realize you've been cold for months. He was always working. Calls, emails, business trips. He'd come home, say the right things. How was your day? Did you eat? Good night. But his eyes were somewhere else. His body came home. But the rest of him didn't. And I stopped trying to follow. Across the street, it was different. Clara and Marcus, the couple everyone admired. Always smiling. Always hosting. Always watching. Clara had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. Warm eyes. Soft touch. She started dropping by at first to say hi, then to check in. I didn't mind. It felt good to be seen. And Marcus? He didn't talk much, but his glances held things his mouth didn't say. Lingering looks. Half smiles, like he was waiting for me to notice that he'd noticed. Then there was Eli. Marcus's younger brother. Mid-20s. Art student. Messy hair. Too charming for his own good. He was always around. Helping Clara with the garden. Fixing something for Marcus. Sketchbook in hand. Smudges on his fingers. Eyes that made you feel interesting. He talked to me like I mattered. Asked questions Daniel hadn't asked in years. Listened to my answers. It's a quiet neighborhood. One of those suburban places where every lawn is trimmed, every smile polite, but behind closed doors, everyone's story is unraveling in its own quiet way. Our house was clean, but cold. Theirs was alive. I started finding excuses to step outside when I heard them talking. Started saying yes more when Clara invited me in. Started laughing louder when Eli was around. I didn't plan it. I didn't even know what it was. All I knew was that home didn't feel like home anymore. And across the street, something buzzed beneath the surface. Warmth, attention, curiosity, and something else. Something I wasn't ready to name. Not yet. Our anniversary came and went like a regular Tuesday. No flowers. No card. Not even a happy anniversary text. Daniel was in the middle of a project. One of those tight deadlines that always seem to fall on days that matter to me. He left that evening in a hurry, shirt wrinkled, tie crooked, laptop half-zipped in his bag. Said something about a late-night meeting downtown. Kissed my cheek without looking me in the eyes. And just like that, he was gone. I sat at the dining table with a glass of wine, staring at 2 candles I lit myself. The silence was louder than usual. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just felt tired. Clara must have seen the porch light still on. She texted me, "Wine night. Just us. Come over." I told myself it was better than being alone. Maybe I even believed that. I threw on a sweater, slipped on flats, and crossed the street. When she opened the door, I should have known. The music was too soft. The kind that hums low and slow, makes you feel things you weren't ready to feel. The lights were dim, like the house was whispering secrets already. And they were all there. Clara, Marcus, Eli. 3 smiles. 3 glasses already poured. 3 people who looked at me like I was meant to walk in. They said my name like it tasted sweet. Clara hugged me a second longer than usual. Marcus's eyes didn't leave mine when he handed me the wine. Eli's grin was lazy, teasing like he knew something I didn't. I told myself it was just wine. Just neighbors. Just company. We laughed. Talked about everything and nothing. But the jokes, they had edges. Double meanings. Questions that felt too personal to be casual. Clara leaned in close when she spoke. Marcus watched me when I wasn't talking. Eli sat across from me, his foot almost touching mine under the table. Every movement felt choreographed, but in that way where you can't tell if it's real or imagined. I laughed. Too much. Too loud. Because it felt good. To be seen. To be heard. To have 3 sets of eyes that actually looked at me, noticed me. I should have gone home then. But it felt nice to be noticed. To be waited for. When I finally stood to leave, Clara walked me to the hallway. Eli stayed behind, sketching something in his book. Marcus followed. At the door, he opened it for me. But didn't step back. Rain had started again. Light this time, soft against the pavement. I turned to say goodbye, and Marcus looked at me quiet. Steady. Then he leaned in and said, "Anytime you knock, we'll be here." And I swear, it wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. Like it wasn't a joke. Like it wasn't a line. Like he meant it. And I walked back across the street feeling like I'd just been offered something I didn't know I wanted, but couldn't stop thinking about. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling like it had answers. The sheets were cold beside me. Daniel still wasn't home. Said he had to crash at the office. Too late to drive back. Too tired to call. And maybe that should have made me angry. But it didn't. It just made the silence feel more permanent. I kept replaying the night. Their faces. Their voices. The way the wine tasted warmer in their house. Clara's laugh. Eli's gaze. Marcus's voice. Anytime you knock, it looped in my mind, like a song you didn't ask to hear, but can't turn off. I felt guilty, but not for what happened. For what I wanted to happen. I turned on my side, pulled the blanket up to my chin, tried to tell myself it was harmless. Just neighbors. Just a strange night. Just attention. But I knew better. Because when I closed my eyes, my dreams betrayed me. And in them, I wasn't sitting politely on their couch. I wasn't sipping wine, laughing at their jokes. I was closer, warmer, touched in ways that weren't physical, but somehow felt deeper than skin. I told myself it was innocent, but my dreams said otherwise. In them, I wasn't watching, I was joining. And the part that scared me the most was how alive I felt. Like someone had turned on a light in a room I forgot existed. Daniel came home the next morning, coffee in hand, kissed my forehead, mumbled something about deadlines and traffic. He didn't notice the way I looked at him. Didn't see how I flinched when his lips touched my skin. I watched him move around the kitchen, the same routine, same mug, same size. And I thought, why do I feel guiltier about what I wanted than what I did? Is it cheating if no one touches you, but they touch something inside you? Is it betrayal if all you did was laugh too long, stay too late, feel too much? I didn't have answers. Just questions that wouldn't sit still, and a memory that wouldn't fade. A knock, a whisper. 3 people waiting, and something inside me starting to wake up. It was 3 nights later when I went back. No excuse this time. No borrowed sugar. No forgotten package. Just me, walking across the street like I didn't already know what I was doing. The house looked the same. Warm light in the windows. Curtains drawn, but not tightly. Like they wanted me to see it glowing. I stood there for a second, hand raised to knock, and then I did. Soft, like last time. But this time, the door opened faster. Clara again. Smile easy. Eyes warm. "Hey, you," she said like she'd been expecting me. Like my name was written in the air between us. I stepped inside. And again, they were all there. Eli on the floor, sketchbook in his lap. Marcus leaning against the counter, glass of red in hand. Three faces turning toward me. Three versions of Welcom in their eyes. We talked. About nothing, at first. Music. Travel. Movies we hadn't seen. But then the questions came. The ones Daniel never asks. Do you like being married? What do you miss most about yourself? When's the last time you felt really seen? And I answered. Not all at once. But enough. Clara sat beside me on the couch, her legs tucked under her, body angled toward mine. Marcus kept refilling my glass, never asking, just pouring. Eli watched me like I was something to be studied. Then he flipped his notebook around. A sketch of me. My eyes, half lit by the lamp. Lips parted, caught mid-thought. I laughed. But something inside me cracked open. And I didn't put it back. The music was playing again. Soft. That same low hum that sinks into your skin. Clara brushed a strand of hair from my face and said, "It's nice to feel wanted, isn't it?" I didn't answer. Didn't have to. Because the truth was sitting between us, thick in the air, warming my chest, making my hands shake just slightly. The conversation turned again. This time to childhood. Regret. Desire. And just as I stood to leave, Clara leaned in close, eyes locked on mine, and whispered, "You always knock so softly. Why not just come in next time?" And I froze. Because it wasn't a question. It was an invitation. And the next time I knocked, I didn't wait for an invitation. The third time, it was raining again. Of course it was. Like the sky knew something was about to happen. Like it wanted to wash me clean before I stepped over the line I'd been dancing around for weeks. Daniel was gone. Another client dinner. Another vague explanation. Another cold kiss on the cheek as he backed out of the driveway with his phone already to his ear. I stood by the window, watching the streetlights flicker through the drops. Watching their house. Warm light. Curtains open just enough. And I couldn't sit still. My heart was pounding. Not from guilt, not yet. From something closer to hunger. A kind of ache that had nothing to do with loneliness anymore and everything to do with curiosity. With possibility. I grabbed my coat. No umbrella. Didn't even think to. My feet crossed the pavement like they knew the path by memory now. I stood in front of their door. Hand raised. And, for the first time, I didn't hesitate. I knocked. Once. And then the door opened. No music. No words. Just three faces turned toward me like they knew. Like I wasn't a guest anymore. I was expected. Clara was in silk. Barefoot. Glass of wine in hand, untouched. Eli looked up from the armchair, sketchbook closed for once. He smiled. Not wide. Just enough to say, "We're past pretending now." Marcus stood behind them. Arms crossed, jaw tense. But his eyes, they burned. No one said a thing. No need. Clara reached for my coat. Eli moved to the side. Marcus shut the door behind me. The warmth hit me first. Not from the heater. From them. Clara's hand grazed my shoulder as she took my coat. Eli brushed past me, his fingers trailing across the back of mine. Marcus walked by, close enough for his breath to touch my neck. I didn't speak. Couldn't. Because words would have made it real. And part of me still needed to believe I had a choice. But my body, it had already made the decision. We didn't sit on the couch this time. We stood. Close. Too close. And then everything blurred. Hands. Breath. Soft laughter in the dark. Clara whispered in my ear. I don't remember what she said. Only that her voice made my knees feel weak. Eli's hand found mine. Marcus watched me like I was a painting he'd been studying too long to pretend he didn't care. And I stood there, between all three of them, as something in me broke open. Or maybe bloomed. I don't know if it was a trap. Or a rescue. I just know I'd never felt that seen. That wanted. That known. And for one suspended moment, in the silence, in the heat, in the storm outside that kept falling, I let it happen. I let me happen. And then everything faded to black. When I got back home, The house was dark. Daniel's car was in the driveway. The porch light was off. I stepped inside and felt the cold hit me like I'd walked into a different world entirely. He was already asleep, lying on his side, back turned toward my side of the bed. I stood in the doorway for a moment, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest. I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe a flicker of guilt. Maybe some part of me hoping he'd wake up, ask me where I'd been, look into my eyes and see something, but he didn't move, didn't stir, not even when I climbed under the sheets. I laid there, eyes open, heartbeat thudding in my throat. I could still feel them. Their touch. Their breath. Their closeness. It wasn't a dream. It had happened. And now I had to exist inside a life that hadn't shifted to match what I'd done. I got up before sunrise, stumbled into the bathroom, turned on the light, and there I was, staring at myself in the mirror. But it didn't feel like me. It felt like someone else was looking back. Someone who had opened a door she couldn't close again. I touched my lips like I could wipe the memory away. But it clung. The day moved on like it always did. Coffee, emails, the sound of Daniel in the kitchen, humming under his breath like nothing was off. I answered him, smiled where I was supposed to, laughed once or twice. I played the part, but I felt like I was walking underwater, everything muffled, slow, detached. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. "Marcus, you okay?" Just that. No punctuation. No emoji. Just a thread pulled tight between us. I didn't answer. An hour later, I stepped outside to get the mail. Clara was across the street, watering her plants in a dress too thin for the weather. She saw me, smiled, and waved. But she didn't wave like a neighbor. She waved like someone who'd already touched the parts of you no one else had. Her hand stayed up a beat too long. Her eyes held mine a second too hard. That night, another knock came, this time not at the door, but digitally. Eli sent me a photo. Another sketch. Me again. But not the me sitting stiffly with a glass of wine. Not the me wrapped in a cardigan, hiding behind polite conversation. No. This was me, head tilted, lips parted, eyes heavy. Alive. Undone. Exposed. I stared at it for a long time. They didn't treat it like a secret. They treated it like a beginning. And maybe that's what terrified me the most. Not that it happened, but that they wanted it to happen again. That I wanted it too. And somewhere in all of that, I wasn't sure who I was anymore. I should feel shame. That's what everyone would expect, right? You cross a line, you live with the guilt. You bury it. You beg forgiveness. You try to forget. But that's not what I felt. What I felt was conflicted. Because part of me misses them. Misses that version of myself. The one who laughed without holding back. The one who felt seen, touched even without being touched. I keep thinking about what it meant. Not the moment itself, but the pull that led me there. I try to put it into words, but it's messy. Because it wasn't lust. Not really. It wasn't about bodies or desire in the way people think. It was about something quieter. Something deeper. It was validation. It was warmth. It was the feeling of being chosen. Of walking into a room and knowing, without a doubt, that you mattered. It was affection. But also betrayal. Not just of Daniel, but of myself. Of the woman I thought I was. The woman I said I'd always be. I catch